Hello, thanks for watching. I'm Joe Crowley. Today I'm joined by the very talented baker and winner of the Great British Bake Off, Candice Brown, and also Quilter Cheviot's Jason Stolte. Now, today we're going to talk about dementia. Over 850,000 people are affected in the UK, and it is now the leading cause of death in England and Wales. It's a really serious issue, one that we all need to have a great deal of awareness around, because there are very few of us that won't be affected by it in some way at some point. And I think that's where we'll start today, because Candice, I know that your family's been affected, particularly by Alzheimer's disease. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, so it was my granddad who had Alzheimer's dementia. He had Parkinson's as well, that kind of went along with that. Yeah, and it's an interesting one for for us as a family, because it's sort of, people say, well, when did it start? And actually, when we reflect, I think some of his funny quirks and things like that we used to sort of laugh at and say, oh, it's granddad. And yeah, he deteriorated quite bad, quite quickly actually. But Grandad used to suffer with sort of the memory loss and things like that, but he also used to see things as well, and we were kind of having the sort of talk about, he would see things like rats in the fireplace or a cat, and he could be sort of quite mean sometimes. And that wasn't him, and that's, I think my nan found that very hard.
I suppose it's upsetting, isn't it, when you see someone you love change in that way and you can't do much about it. And
it wasn't often, but he would sometimes know he had done it. My nan might say to him, you weren't very nice to me, Fred. And he would say sorry, but at that point, I think the mind just kind of takes over, and you kind of see this person that you looked up to so much barely remember you, and for him not to be able to remember my dad or my uncle, my auntie, I mean, that was just horrendous for them. And I mean, sometimes I think it's worse for the family because of what you're seeing, whereas sometimes my granddad was back when he was 13 years old making bakewells at the bakery, and we'd be sitting there going, he'd got no idea where I was just feeding him some cake I'd brought him, or a choc ice, which were his favourites. Yeah, he couldn't tell me who I was, but he would tell me about being a baker's boy or working on the boats in the Navy with the rats biting his feet.
It's the support for the family as much as it is also caring for the individual, because it really takes that toll on your nan, on yourselves. It's that emotional support you need at that time, isn't it?
Every individual's experience is different of their loved one's disease. They're all slightly different in some way, but all connected because it's dementia and it's memory loss.
Yeah, which is the most personal thing ultimately, isn't it? Like you can't compare illnesses, but when somebody has a heart attack and they're clearly ill and then they sort of start recovering, and it's a completely different thing, whereas when it's their personality, when it's their memory, that is the sort of painful aspect that the families have to deal with. You've been through something quite similar with your father, was it?
It was my father, yeah. It probably started about 6-7 years ago. The last 2 years he spent in a home, passed away in June last year, and I guess really the first sign of it was some things that he would forget, forgetful of names, and it just starts to roll from there and get progressively worse. But I certainly remember my mother saying to me, your father's been for a dementia test, memory test, and he's basically failed on every single level. And even at that time, I didn't think he was that bad, but I knew there was something not quite right. It's an awful degenerative disease because there is no cure for it. It doesn't get any better, and it's only a matter of time before things do get worse. And my father was a really outgoing, fantastic, personable person that everybody loved, and he always exuded a sense of fun-loving warmth. He looked like a Father Christmas, you know, with his bald head and white beard, big pot belly. He was just this big, warm, loving person. So to see that person go from that person to a shell in 7 years, it's massively distressing for everybody involved.
My nan, I'd speak to my nan 2-3 times a day. I mean, apps there, I mean, they were just my world. And she said, I'm just lonely, I can't have a conversation with him anymore. And that was hard because you couldn't. And I mean, my granddad, he was naughty. He was so funny, but he was a bugger. He really was naughty. And he started to lose that, and we'd get it back every so often, and we'd be like, there he is.
Part of that progressive memory loss is also losing the ability to speak as well. So my father was German, but he came to Jersey in the early 60s as a chef, and he was very fluent in English. And in fact, Candice was asking, you couldn't even tell that he was a German. He just had a strange accent. But they say with dementia, your long-term memory is the last thing to go. So he progressively lost the ability to speak English. And I would slowly be able to communicate with him in German. So I got more response by speaking German to him.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your very personal experiences with me today. And if you'd like to find out more about Quilter Cheviot's Dementia Initiative, then please check out the Quilter Cheviot website.